All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to Tuesday College Hoops Live. I am Josh Appelbaum, and we're going to give it a minute or two, just let everyone trickle in. Obviously, today is really the beginning of conference tournaments, which is a super exciting time of year for college basketball bettors. And I have a lot to break down with you guys today. We're going to talk about obviously all the big games today, conference tournaments, lines are moving. I think one thing that jumped out to me with all of today's numbers are there's kind of some sharp moves, and there's also moves where hasn't moved so much to a point where we want to buy low and kind of take that inflated dog. So that's going to be something that we're going to talk about. And as always, the whole point of this Tuesday live stream is really to introduce you guys to rhythm, kind of show you how it works, how to take advantage of rhythm predictions, when to fire on a bet, when to lay off, when to kind of maybe make it a lean and then decide, give it time and figure out, should I play this or should I not? We're just going to, again, give it a second here and then get locked and loaded, and we'll be answering a ton of your questions. I really like the board today. There's, I think, about 22 games overall. We have a ton of rhythm system matches across the board. So let's let everyone trickle in, and we will get locked and loaded here and start our live stream. All right. So I'll take you behind the scenes. Every time the Rhythm live stream starts, I got to tweet it out from my account. I got to retweet Rhythm. Got to make sure the all systems go model here has been retweeted. So that's why it takes a little bit of time. But as always, again, it's a Tuesday. Let people trickle in here. But I'm very excited to be hosting once again the Tuesday Rhythm live stream. All right, got that all out of the way here. As always, thank you for tuning in. We're going to talk a ton of college basketball hoops here for today. I'm already sweating some games as of right now. I don't know if anyone's got any plays that they're looking at. I am currently on TCU. Took TCU on the money line. They're down pretty bad, but they started to get hot here. I think they were shooting 16%. When I looked, they were down 4, and they were 5 of 30 from the field. So it's halftime. They're up 1. So it's a good time here to put that sweat to the side, and I'll talk about some games that have not started yet. So, whole point being of this live stream, showing you guys how to use Rhythm to your advantage. Now, there is a team of analysts at Rhythm that host different live streams throughout the week. You're going to have different approaches to Rhythm. Maybe people take different kind of avenues to get to a play. But I think it's really important here that when you tune into a live stream, take a little piece of information, a nugget from each person that does a stream, because the beauty of Rhythm is that the team with Megan and Brian and James Santor and Alec and the whole crew, they're going to give us all this fantastic data with recommendations, and then it's up to us how to interpret those recommendations and make bets that we feel like still have value and have the recommendation of Rhythm. Now, you've heard me say this before. I won't get too deep into it, but I'm a data-driven bettor. That means that I really focus large majority of my handicap on reading the market, looking at what the market is telling me in terms of what did the line open at, how has it moved, and then interpreting the bet splits, the bets in dollars at books like DraftKings and Circa. And my whole goal is to try to figure out a play that, again, none of my plays are based on bias, and that's the beauty of Rhythm. Rhythm doesn't have any bias either. It's really based on the hard data. But my ultimate goal is to find a play where I can simultaneously be against the public with the sharps and try to beat the closing line. If I can do that, I feel like that is a play worth firing on. So with that being said, I have my trusty notebook, like I bring it to every single live stream. And I have 2 official best bets that I'm excited to share with you, walk you through how to interpret the data, at least from my perspective. Then we're going to talk about a lot of inflated lines. That's really the theme of today, because there's a lot of games where, like, maybe the favorite goes from -3 up to -5. And really that tells you that, hey, there's probably a lot of respected money that hit the favorite, laid the chalk, moved the number. But Rhythm says they should be +3.5. Should we buy low on the dog with that inflated number? That's going to be a big theme today, because there are quite a few games that kind of fit that model. Now, before we dive in, and I'll give you all the plays, I want to make sure that everyone has requested their bracket, because Rhythm is going to have us covered all March Madness long, and it starts with requesting your bracket. So if you haven't done it yet, make sure you download Rhythm. There's the QR code here. If I can kind of point in that direction, this way. There we go. I can't really do it. Anyway, top right corner of the page. But once you download Rhythm, Obviously, you'll be off and running, looking at the models and predictions. But I want to make sure you all request your bracket. Now, mine says your bracket is in the queue. That means that I've already done it. My bracket is being built. As soon as Selection Sunday rolls around and the bracket is unveiled, boom, I'm going to get my bracket. Your page, though, might say request your AI-driven bracket. So if you haven't done it yet, click that. You'll have up to 3 different models to choose from. You can just take the kind of recommended model from Rhythm, or you can kind of create your own based on criteria or factors that you feel are important to you. Like maybe after watching a lot of college hoops this year and doing a lot of March Madnesses, you figure, hey, I really like teams that don't turn it over and can shoot the 3 and make their free throws. Okay, you can weight those criteria to your benefit. Or you might say, hey, typically the team that out rebounds the opponent, they typically win. Maybe I want to lean more offensive rebounds and really put a lot of weight into not turning it over. Again, we can layer in those criteria as well. So generate your bracket. Again, you can pick the AI model or create your own. But I just want to make sure everyone sees this here on the homepage, and then they'll be off and running. And by the way, I get excited. MLB coming right here. So before we dive in, I want to mention one thing too. This is kind of my own personal thing that I've been doing for quite a while, but creating a contrarian bracket. On the topic of brackets, I won't take too long here, but when you get your bracket, let me ask you guys, we're all excited. We're holding the bracket in hand. You probably print it out old school like I do, or maybe you just fill it in, of course, on the computer. But majority of people, when they get their bracket, they're going to start on the edges, on the outsides. So all the games on the outside, the round of 64, they're going to fill out those first and then work their way in, obviously toward, Elite Eight, Final Four, championship game. Here's the thing, though. When you look at the game of Jeopardy, a lot of people don't really factor this in, but it's really important. You got to think about the weight of the clues. Like the clues at the bottom are like $1,000. The clues at the top are $100. So you might just crush your opening round on the edges and do very well to start. You might even be, leading the board. But those are low-weighted clues here. Basically, those are your $100 clues in Jeopardy. What's more important is that you get the $1,000 clues right, because someone can sweep the $100, clues, but if the other person gets a bunch of the $1,000 right, they're going to win the game because they have basically more value in the clues that they choose. So on that topic, you want to think of your bracket in terms of what gets you the most points. It's not the outside, round of 64 games. Obviously, after day one, maybe you've crushed your bracket. And one thing that I do is I've done this forever. I highlight the ones I win in like a yellow highlighter, and I just X out I basically make a big little scratch in black, the ones I get wrong. You might have a ton of highlighted yellow and you're looking great, but that doesn't mean you're going to win your bracket. And more importantly, you want your teams to go deeper, because the more rounds you go, the more meaningful and valuable those clues are. So it's much more important to do well in the Sweet 16 and have a lot of Sweet 16 teams alive or a lot of Final Four teams alive than it is crushing your outside, first clues. So of course I want to do well in the first opening round, but how many times have you seen someone, and you see this all the time, usually the person who wins the bracket is like someone's, aunt or someone in the office who doesn't even know any of the teams. Like oftentimes it's just upsets, and people who have crazy brackets that don't know anything about college hoops, they're usually the people that win. But how often do you have someone who maybe leads round one and then isn't even close when it comes to the end? With that being said, when you create a contrarian bracket, you basically want to start from the middle and work your way out. So I see everyone's heads explode. Wait, whoa, I'm supposed to take a bracket outside and go in, right? No, you can do it the other way. You can start in the middle. Pick your champion first. So what's really important about picking your champion first is that the public is going to gravitate toward basically the best team. So I'm looking at obviously the rankings right now. Duke is number 1, Auburn's number 2. If you look at the betting odds, Duke is plus 340 to cut down the nets. Auburn's plus 380. I will make a bet with you guys right now. I would venture to say whatever bracket you're in, 90% or more are going to have either Duke or Auburn as their champion. Now, if Duke or Auburn wins, hey, as a contrarian, the public wins. And here's the other thing. Even if you pick Duke or Auburn and one of them win, everyone else is going to have them too. So you're not really differentiating yourself. You might pick the right champion, but still not win your bracket challenge because everyone else is doing the same thing as you. The whole point of a contrarian bracket is to differentiate yourself. Be different from the masses. Be different from the herd. Because if Duke or Auburn wins, hey, contrarian bracket people, we're not going to win. Because the whole point is that we need to pick a champion other than Duke or Auburn. So if Duke or Auburn wins, hey, you're probably going to lose your bracket. But, and here's the thing, you go into, how many times have we seen, the number one team or the number two team, the favorite, the team that everyone thinks is going to win it all, they end up losing? Like, wasn't it Virginia a few years ago? Who did they lose to? UMBC, or I forget the specific matchups here, but it isn't always the case that the best team wins March Madness. That's why it's madness. It's unpredictable. So with that being said, you want to create a contrarian bracket, start in the middle, pick a champion that no one else picks. For example, maybe you pick Florida. They're plus 700, third best odds. Maybe you pick Houston. They're plus 750, fourth best odds. Alabama is plus 1,000. Maybe you pick Bama. Tennessee, Michigan State, St. John's, who knows? Whole point being is if you pick Florida and Florida wins it all, you're probably going to win your bracket because a lot of people aren't going to pick Florida. You pick Houston and Houston wins it all, you're probably going to win your bracket. So I just want to get people to start thinking about the bracket. Obviously, you got to request your AI generated bracket from Rhythm. But in terms of when you create your bracket, just think about maybe differentiating yourself, being, not with the masses, but against the masses. Start from the middle, work your way out. Start with a champion no one else is predicting. Florida and Houston would probably be two really good angles there to start with. So with that being said, just to get you guys a little bit excited, and here it is because it's conference tournament day. Here I am. I'm like coming out, getting a little bit watered. Now throw me back in. Now let's talk about some games here. So first one on the board that I want to hit on is a 6:30 p.m. Eastern time game. We have Sam Houston and UTEP. So as always, my approach to sports betting is I'm looking at the market first because the market is very efficient. Market takes in a lot of smart money. The market moves based on respected money coming in. So with that being said, let's look at how this line has moved. With that being said, let me just pull up my breakdown for this game for Sam Houston and UTEP. This, by the way, is a 6:30 game, the Conference USA first round. So going into it, Sam Houston is 13-18, losing record, 9 seed, but they have won 2 in a row. You look on the flip side here, we have UTEP 17-14, good record, but they've really struggled. Even though they're the 8 seed versus the 9 seed Sam Houston, they've lost 7 straight. At one point, UTEP, I believe, was 17-7, looking great. Again, they've lost 7 in a row versus a team who's below 500 record, Sam Houston, but has won 2 straight. Now, let's look at what the line has, or how the line has moved, basically. That's important to me. This game opened at pretty much a pick'em. We've now seen UTEP get up to -2. So why is the line moving toward UTEP when it opens as a pick? And basically, this is a team that has really struggled here as of late. It tells me smart money is coming in on UTEP. Now, UTEP, let's look at the bet splits. They are getting 59% of spread bets and 80% of spread dollars at DraftKings. At Circa, they're getting around 2/3 of bets, 3 out of $4. So both DraftKings and Circa are showing a good split here on the minors. KenPom's got them winning by 1. So I moneylined UTEP. Got them a little bit earlier today. I think they're around -140. And they have some distinct advantages. Better defensive efficiency. They rank 129th versus 264th. They take better care of the ball. 145th in turnovers versus 253rd for the Bearcats. And they also force more turnovers. 10th in the country versus 174th. And they have a ton of steals. 6th in the country in steals. So UTEP, can really, pick the pocket, hopefully, and get out in transition. Another angle here is it's just fishy. UTEP has lost 7 straight, yet the game opened at a pick. Now it's up to UTEP -2. So basically, the smart money isn't saying, hey, let's fade this team that's struggling. Smart money is saying, let's buy low on UTEP here because they're in a buy low situation. Also a revenge play here for the Miners. They lost to the Bearcats just a couple days ago, about a week ago. They lost by 2 points. So I've kind of created the case that, hey, open at a pick, lines up to UTEP. We got some good bet splits, got some good stat advantages. It's kind of a fishy buy low play on a team that struggled. Okay, now my final angle here is let's go find the game and let's go see what Rhythm says for this matchup. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to find UTEP Sam Houston. Now, the first thing that jumps out to me is both of my models are on UTEP. Now, and again, it gets confusing when you have conflicting models and one on both sides. I always recommend, clicking the actual recommendation to get more information. These are both, basically caution plays, which means basically it's not a straight tail or a straight auto bet, but you want to kind of build your own case. Like at this point, I've built my case to play UTEP. Pick 'em game, line move to UTEP. It's a buy low play on UTEP. I pop open my Rhythm predictions here. It's a caution flag, but basically UTEP is a recommended play. UTEP is basically, favored by 1 point. Now, what's important here is they're basically -1.5, -2 in the market. This is why I moneyline short favorites. I'll give you a perfect example, guys, from last night. Robert Morris, Robbie Moe, as I like to call him. They forced overtime. They won it in overtime by 3. I moneylined Robert Morris. Why is that important? Because Robert Morris closed -3.5. You lay a 3.5. You lost on Robbie Moe last night. You moneylined Robert Morris. You won the bet. So my first model is basically -0.9 on UTEP. My second is -1.1. So I take this as a positive. I built a case to play UTEP because the line went open at a pick, moved in favor of UTEP. I like the splits. I like the stat advantages. I like the fishy buy low on a team that's lost 7 in a row. The revenge factor. They just lost to this same team, Sam Houston, just a few days ago. And then my cherry on top, which is the way I use Rhythm, is that Rhythm is with me. Rhythm is telling me, even though it's a caution flag, hey, we got UTEP basically winning by a point or, 1.1. And when you money line a team, 1.1 -0.9 will round it up, round it down, 1 point. That's all you need to win the game. So that's how I use Rhythm to my advantage. I start with the betting market. I move to the Rhythm predictions. And my first bet here is UTEP on the money line. Again, you can shop around and probably find them around -135, -140 now at this point. Now, next one. I got a 7 o'clock game. It just so happens to be Robbie Moe, Robert Morris against Youngstown State. This is the Horizon League championship game. So the winner punches their ticket, goes to March Madness. Now, let's set the stage. Youngstown State, the 4 seed, they're 21-12. They just upset Cleveland State 56-54 last night in the semifinals. Robert Morris, 25-8, the 1 seed. And again, they just beat Oakland by 3. Didn't cover the 3.5, though. Now, what's notable to me, I'll pull up this, so I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek here. So let's scroll down, find the game. Here we go. Youngstown State, Robert Morris. This is actually a great example because we have, on the surface, conflicting systems. One system, they're both caution, but one says take Youngstown, 2.1 game. The other one says take Robbie Moe, 2.6 game. Now, here's my angle. My angle is Robert Morris because I start off with what the market is telling me. What the market is telling me is that even though it's not a huge steam move, and let's see, I wanted to mention, okay, the chat is open, so throw your chats in there. EB Steelers. When do you typically run your rhythm model relation to game times, and do you run it multiple times during the day or just once? EB Steelers, great question. So what I do is my routine might be a little different than other people. I wake up. So here, let's even go back further. I like to look at the games even a day in advance. It doesn't mean I'm going to play them. It just means, hey, let's see if anything is just popping out to me. Maybe there's a huge discrepancy. I want to be aware of it at least the night before, overnight. I've been betting on sports a while, so I'm kind of in the gambler's, kind of routine where, you spend all day deciding your bets, you sweat your bets. Hopefully you do well. Win or lose, though, once those games end, before you go to bed, I'm looking at the next day's lines, basically, because I want to get a leg up. I want to be aware at least of what the games are, what the lines are, what the opening numbers are. So EB Steelers, to your point, I always, when I first get into Rhythm, click refresh the page. So if we X out of here, we go to the very top, you can see, I'm actually glad you mentioned it, EB Steelers. By the way, do you want Aaron Rodgers, EB Steelers? There's rumors. Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't take him because he'll kill your team. He's a cancer. Anyway, look at this right now. Look at the top and see the last time it was refreshed. 3:11, so that's today, 3:44 p.m. What time is it now? It is 4:23 p.m. So let's hit refresh. That means that we are, I don't know what, basically 50 minutes behind. Now we've updated the predictions. We get the pop-up here that our models have been updated. We're completely up to date. So that's what I would always recommend. Just automatically, once you log in, update, get the most refreshed numbers. Because the other thing is, not only will the Rhythm predictions, might move down or up or down a bit, but the betting market is always constantly moving. So maybe there's a Rhythm model that becomes stronger because maybe a line is moved, or maybe, as I mentioned before, maybe there's a dog that is plus 4.5. I'm looking at like Southern Utah right now. Southern Utah has a couple models here on with the plus 4.5. That's actually a game that I wanted to mention here in a second. I don't want to get all over the place. Yeah, Russell Rodgers, EB Steelers. Well, they don't have Justin Fields anymore. Now he's the Jets' problem. But whole point being is the market's constantly changing. You want to be up to date. If you are behind the 8 ball, if you are delayed, if you're getting data that's stale, you could basically be looking at something that's already changed, and maybe it's changed negatively or positively, but you want to get the most up-to-date information you can so that you can make the smartest bet that you can. So to your point, EB Steelers, I start the night before, update, always hit refresh. And then, throughout the day, I probably hit refresh. I never want to be more than like a half hour behind. Ideally, I want to be up to date, exactly at the time. That's currently, the most up-to-date number. Now, anyway, I wanted to mention real quick just Robert Morris, because this is my other best bet of the day. I took Robert Morris on the money line. What I like about Robert Morris, they open around -3, even -3.5 at some shops. The -3s immediately got up to 3.5, and then the 3.5 when it opened on Robert Morris was -3.5, -110. So pay attention to the juice, because the juice, it's not just the tax, the VIG, the commission we have to pay the book. We got to win 52.38% of the time to overcome -110 juice, even just to break even. But also lets you know which way the wind is blowing, and lets you know the ultimate question. You might identify a bet you like, and then you say to yourself, should I bet it now or should I wait because it's going to get better, or it's going to get worse and I should play it now? So with that being said, I noticed that Robbie Moe was getting juiced up, -3.5, -115. Some books even at -4. So even though it's not a huge line move, like we just talked about UTEP going from a pick up to -1.5, -2, the fact that it was getting juiced up and even went to 4, sneaky smart money told me it was on Robbie Moe. Robert Morris, good bet splits at DraftKings, 60% bets, 71% dollars. Now Ken Palm's got him winning by 3. So you lay a 3.5, they win by 3, you lose your bet. So I moneylined Robert Morris. I got them a little bit earlier today at FanDuel at -170. Definitely shop around, because moneyline prices can really vary. Other books are like -190. So 20 cents extra juice, again, makes a big difference long term. But anyway, I like the splits on the money line, circa 60% bets, 83% dollars. Robert Morris has a ton of stat advantages: better offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, offensive rebound percentage, 3-point shooting. They force more turnovers, and they allow fewer offensive rebounds. These are all advantages in favor of Robert Morris. So let's go to the very last leg here. My play is Robert Morris money line. My first rhythm system match technically says take Youngstown 3.5, because Rhythm has them at 2. The other angle here, -2.6. Again, they're 3.5. So you always want to kind of think through why you're going to make a bet and where you feel like you have an advantage. And to me, when you're money lining a play, you can always click money line. Like, these recommendations are Youngstown, because basically it's the value of the payout plus 150. But if you still look at the predictions here, it's still about a 2-point win or 2.5-point win for Robert Morris. So it depends on, how bold you want to be. I recommend a flat betting 1 unit per play. But in my interpretation, I got liability movement toward Robert Morris. I got stat advantages. I got Ken Palm by 3, and I have 2 rhythm models that say it should be about a 2-point win or 2.5-point win. So therefore, I am playing Robert Morris on the money line. Let's see, James, how much filtering do you do on Rhythm for your model performance? So I have my models here. I have some active ones. I do kind of update them every now and again. I look at my factor library, and I can, change around what I'm looking at in terms of, kind of the factors that are important to me. So I don't change them around as much, James. I think it's important to at least track them and be aware of, maybe things that might, kind of become more important to you, less important to you. You can always kind of update them along the way. EB Steelers says, thanks, Josh. James, I just do recommended plays in the date, but not filtering that out. Yep, you could probably filter each model if you're looking for spreads and totals. Yeah, great point. Like, I don't hit on a lot of totals, but you are definitely free to play totals. I did notice that in, was it Arch Madness? That conference, I think unders went like 10-1. I do lean a lot of unders in conference tournaments because they're neutral sites. Sometimes you get tired legs, teams playing like 3 games in 3 days. So maybe you lean a little bit to some unders. James made EB Steelers made a good point. Like, I go game by game because you got to remember, I'm starting my breakdown based on my live odds page. I'm looking at every game one by one, and then with my notebook, I'm writing down things that jump out to me. That's how I start my handicap. You might not have that approach. You might say, hey, just give me the best plays. Again, nothing wrong with that. These will be your top recommended plays just under predictions. So maybe LSU has an upset win. Northwestern State. This one's really interesting. This is one of the most recommended plays of the day. It's getting 16.5. Rhythm says they should be getting 13.4. So they're different. This is the beauty of Rhythm. You can say, give me the top plays. There's a lot of them here, so you might want to pick and choose unless you're putting like, a quarter of a unit on each one. But that's just a lot of games to get down on. But this is an easy starting point. You can always go to your homepage too, and you can click on like your top 5 predictions, highest win probability, your top dogs. If you only want to look at unders, like again, conference tournaments, usually unders do well. Let's see if we can look for some discrepancies here. Let's see, 142.5, 141.5. Here's a 2-point edge, UTSA, East Carolina. That's for tomorrow or a couple days from now. 151, predicted 149. There are different ways, again, to use Rhythm to your advantage. But I think just knowing, your blueprint, what works for you, whether you start with the market or you start with Rhythm, the whole point being is, you got to figure out a way that you feel comfortable with, that can help you to obviously cash tickets, but more importantly, try to make the sharpest bets that you can. So my 2 plays, UTEP and Robert Morris, those are my 2 favorite plays. Those are my money line plays for tonight. Now I want to hit on a few other games. These are the games that I kind of threw into the bucket of like leans, but then also kind of value plays. And I think it's important, like when I'm making a bet, my number one thing is I want to be on the sharp side. I want to be on the side of the winning bettors, the pro bettors, the sharps, the wise guys, whatever you want to call them, the bettors that win at a high rate, have a long track record of success, the guys and gals who move numbers. Then I want to be contrarian. I want to be against the public. This is my kind of approach to betting. If I can bypass the games that don't check off both boxes and get down on the games that do, that's my ultimate goal. But sometimes, again, in sports betting, it's all about the number. It's all about the number that you're getting. And I'll give you a perfect example. Like, let's say a game like here, I'll go to the Robert Morris game from last night. Robert Morris, I think they opened, let me pull it up. They opened at -2. They closed -3.5. They won by 3. So those of the wise guys who moved the number and got Robert Morris -2, -2.5, they won their bet. Person who was late and got a 3 pushed. Person who was really late and laid -3.5 lost. But the other angle is, if you see a big line move, it becomes a bit of a conundrum for you as the sports bettor, because on the one hand, I want to be with the line move. Whatever's causing that line to move, it's an overload of smart money that the book respects. So they're saying, hey, like for example, in that Robert Morris game, -2 up to -3.5, that the book, the market, again, this is not just one specific sports book, but the entire market was steaming for Robert Morris. So at all these different books, and then you have some books that copycat, piggyback, they're just basically quote unquote moving on air. That just means they're moving not because they took in money specifically, but because the whole market is moving. With that being said, you want to have maybe a number in your head, especially with a spread sport, of when a line has moved too much. Like, has it moved so much to now the value is gone on the quote unquote sharp side, and you want to buy low on the quote unquote contrarian side. So with that being said, there are a few games. There's actually kind of a lot of games here that caught my eye. So the first one that I noticed was Southern Utah. So this is a 4:30 game. It's actually starting like right now. Whole point being with that game is that Utah Tech opened as about a 2.5 point favorite, and Utah Tech is all the way now to -4.5. So it's this game right here. So those who bet, Utah Tech early -2, 2.5, 3, they're looking pretty good. The line's at 4.5. They beat the closing line. They're basically in a very good position. But let's say Southern Utah, or let's say Utah Tech wins by 4. That means the early sharps on Utah Tech -2.5, -3, -3.5 win, the late 4.5s lose. So my angle here is this has moved so much to Utah that it's kind of a little bit too pricey for me to money line. Like I like money lining short favorites, but this is like -200 for Utah Tech. I don't like to money line favorites more than, definitely not over -200, but really like -170. I don't like to go above that, just because if you're laying so much juice, you're really not getting enough back, to make it the juice worth the squeeze, quote unquote. So whole point being is I'm intrigued by Southern Utah plus 4.5. I have 2 recommended models. It's an inflated line value play. Rhythm says Southern Utah should be plus 3.2 or plus 4. If I'm getting 4.5, and this is around a 3-point game, a little bit of value there. Also, can you shop around? Is there a book maybe that's hanging a 5? So what jumped out to me is that's not, and again, Southern Utah plus 4.5 is not a sharp play. And it's not sharp because, the line's going away from them. I like to look at the bets in dollars. Like, let me just dial up what Southern Utah is getting. Like at DraftKings, they're getting like 65% of bets. At Circa, it's basically 50-50. So they're getting like a majority of tickets. The line's going away from them. It looks to me like Utah Tech is the quote unquote sharp play. But here's the tricky thing. They were sharp at -2.5, -3. Are they still sharp at 4.5? That there's an argument to be made that no, they're not. The value could be gone. So I didn't play Southern Utah, but I think the whole point is when you see a huge line move, and a very easy way to do it is if you have a live odds page. If anyone has questions, I can recommend one to you. But you have an open column, and right next to it, you have all the current numbers. Quickly just scan all the games and look for huge moves. And by huge, I mean has moved at least 2 points basically off the opener. When you find those, you see a huge move, dial up Rhythm. See if there's a discrepancy play. Like here's another one that I found. Arizona State against K-State. If we look at this game here, Arizona State, K-State opened as around a 4-point favorite, and now they're all the way up to -5.5. Looks like they may even go to 6. So it's clear that K-State is taking in a lot of money. The line's moved in their favor. But I have a model here that says it should be about a 3.7 game. It should be about a 4.4 game. And if you can wait and get a 6, then it becomes a value play. The other thing I like is that Arizona State is only getting 35% of bets at DraftKings. So this is basically a contrarian play with a big inflated line. So I'm a little intrigued by Arizona State. The darling so far in the conference tournaments is Delaware. Delaware, I believe, is a 12 seed. At one point, I think they lost 9 of 10 games. But if you look at basically their matchup here today against Wilmington, they're a big dog. This game, though, opened, let me find it for you, opened with Wilmington. James, if you want a recommendation, or if you're on Twitter, send me a direct message. And this goes for anyone. It is at Josh_insights. And I will hook you up, my buddy. But this one's interesting. Delaware, NC Wilmington. This line's moving toward Wilmington. Wilmington opened around -7.5. They're up to -9.5. That is a big number. So I always want to update and refresh our page. Like this is a question that EB Steelers was asking, because I'm now seeing Delaware at +9.5. Now, we look at our rhythm model, they should be getting 6.5. They should be getting 7.6. The whole point is when you are on the contrarian inflated side, you want to wait as long as possible. Again, someone told me a long time ago, bet favorites early, dogs late. So if you like Delaware, and I'll give you a reason to be a little scared of Delaware. I believe so. This is where it gets tricky because Delaware, obviously, an incredible Cinderella run, but the public knows they're a Cinderella run. I think they're a 12 seed. I mentioned that earlier, but they are getting with big points around 60% of bets at DraftKings. Yet the line is moving away from them. So it looks like sharp's kind of like NC Wilmington here because that line's moving in their favor. But if you can wait out and get a 9.5, does it even get to 10? That'll be a buy low play on Delaware. The other one that jumped out to me was Fairfield. Fairfield against Sacred Heart. So this game opened with Sacred Heart around a 3-point favorite. Sacred Heart has now been bet up to -4.5. So it's clear that the line's moving toward toward Sacred Heart. But can you buy low on Fairfield now, getting 4.5? Rhythm says they should be getting 2.8 or getting 3.3. The one thing I do like about Fairfield, though, is they're pretty contrarian. This is an 8:30 primetime game. I'm not saying, Sacred Heart Fairfield's going to be, Duke, Kentucky tonight and be the most heavily bet game of the night, but it is a primetime game. Public is all over Sacred Heart. The line's moving to Sacred Heart. Can you buy low and also have a number in your head? Like maybe you say, 2.8 and I can get 4.5. Let me hold out for a 5. Be selective when it comes to these inflated line plays, because I am seeing some books that are a little juiced toward the Sacred Heart side, maybe going to 5. The other one that I want to mention was Prairie View. Prairie View was intriguing to me as well. Prairie View and Florida A&M, because this game opened with Florida A&M around an 8.5-point favorite. The line is now down to as low as 6.5. I see a 7.5 still out there, a 6 as well. Again, shop for the best line. Make sure you have multiple outs. But this is an added game, extra game. This is game 306, 567, 306, 568. Prairie View, Florida A&M. Small, tiny little game. Public doesn't care about this one. But if you look at the line movement, it's going toward Prairie View in the points. Again, as high as, what did I say? 8.5, now down to 6.5. Rhythm's got a 5.3. Rhythm's got a 5.5. If you can shop around and still find a 7, you might even maybe find a 7.5. That could be worth a play. And when you're looking for discrepancies, I basically want at least that this would be a 1 point advantage, 5.5 when you get 6.5 in the market. You can get to 2 points or more. Those are really the models that get me excited. Now, I wanted to mention probably the biggest game of the night, Gonzaga, St. Mary's. So these are two of the best teams in their conference. We all know how great they both are. Of course, Gonzaga has owned this conference forever, but St. Mary's has always been kind of that second best team that always kind of gives Gonzaga a game, but can never kind of get over the hump. Well, this one's intriguing to me because it's a 9 o'clock game. It's the most heavily bet game of the night. Both of my models are saying take St. Mary's in the points. But this is why I call this game a red flag game. Because the first thing I noticed is that St. Mary's is a bit of a trendy dog. St. Mary's is getting 61% of spread bets at DraftKings, and they are getting 59% of bets at Circa. St. Mary's is ranked 19th in the country. Gonzaga is unranked. I actually like to play unranked faves versus ranked opponents. Like it's kind of fishy that quote unquote St. Mary's is the better team, yet Gonzaga opens as a 3.5-point favorite. So what kind of scares me a little bit about St. Mary's is that they're the public side. The public is on St. Mary's plus the points. And if you look at the line movement, it really hasn't moved toward St. Mary's. It's been Gonzaga -3.5. They've been juiced up. They've gotten a 4 at one point, then back down to 3.5. That kind of tells me St. Mary's is a trendy dog and almost looks like Gonzaga is a contrarian sharp fade the trendy dog play. If we look at our rhythm predictions here, St. Mary's plus 3.7, St. Mary's plus 3.1. Now, to me, this is a layoff. I don't feel strong enough about St. Mary's because it's not a huge discrepancy, 0.4 basically, so less than a half point, and actually minus 0.2. They should actually be favored basically, or basically be more of a dog than they currently are. Now, if St. Mary's had a rhythm prediction of +1, or maybe, plus 1.7, like if that was a huge discrepancy, okay, that could make me kind of lean more on St. Mary's. But my sense for this game, St. Mary's could win outright. They could lose by 3 or less and you cover, but it worries me that the rhythm edge isn't that big. And I'm talking about the predicted number versus the Vegas number. And also the public is all over St. Mary's, yet the line has stayed the same or been juiced up toward Gonzaga. Now, on the other hand, is it a Gonzaga money line? Right now on the money line, Zags to win the game, -175. Let's kind of look at how Rhythm is predicting this one. There is a recommendation here, Gonzaga on the money line. Like basically, I'd rather money line Gonzaga than I would take 3.5. with St. Mary's, as weird as that sounds. So that's one of those games where not enough of an edge for me to get down. Last game I wanted to mention was Idaho and Montana. So this one's intriguing because if you look at the breakdown for this one, this is your last game of the night. You're going to have to stay up late if you're an East Coaster like me. It's an 11:30 game. But this game opened Montana as a 6.5-point neutral site favorite. And the line hasn't moved all day. It's stayed at 6.5. The juice hasn't changed. Everybody and their mother's on Montana. 75% of tickets at Circa. And at DraftKings, 72% of bets are on Montana. So basically, DraftKings and Circa, everybody's playing Montana, laying 6.5, thinking this will be a blowout win or win by 7 or more. But it's a bit of a line freeze. If 3 out of 4 bets are on Montana, why hasn't the line gone up -6.5 to 7, 7 to 8? Why hasn't the line moved further toward the popular side? It's actually stayed the same, or I'm even seeing one book where a couple juiced up like it may get down to 6. So Idaho looks pretty sharp to me. They're only getting about a quarter of bets in a very heavily bet late night game. This is your quote unquote chase game. Basically, the public, this is the last opportunity, to win a bet tonight. So they're going to load up on probably the favorite in the late game. This is kind of like your Hawaii game. You always joke around in college football. There's always, one last game in Hawaii that kicks off at midnight. That's kind of the Montana spot tonight, where the public is all over Montana. Here's where it gets good, though. Both of my models are on Idaho. My one recommended model here says Idaho should be getting 4.4. That's pretty good. That's that 2-point discrepancy that we were looking for. Idaho plus 6.5, 5.2. Not quite your 2 points, but both of my rhythm models, my Josh model and then my pre-built NCAA men's basketball model, are telling me this should be about a 4 or 5 point game. We can be against the public. We can get a 6.5. I kind of like Idaho there, plus the points. That one jumped out to me. So that about does it for the live stream for today, guys. Let me throw it out to you guys. Any games that you love tonight? I know we didn't hit on a ton of totals. I stick to a lot more sides than I do totals. But any questions you may have, anything I can guide you or assist you with, feel free to throw it out there. I want to say thanks to James Berger and EV Steelers for asking some fantastic questions on the live stream. Reminder, you can always find me on Twitter at Josh_insights. So James, you can hit me up and I will give you that recommendation for tonight or for the live odds page. And as always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Again, 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. We've had 500 people or so tune into the live stream. That's pretty good. So I want to, of course, leave you guys with one thing. You got some homework. I'm a teacher that's going to make you do a little homework. If you haven't done it yet, I want you to give the Rhythm app a 5-star review on Spotify or iTunes. On iTunes or Google Play Store. I would love for you guys to request your bracket because the team at Rhythm is working really hard to get these brackets ready to go. And then I also want you to tell a friend about Rhythm. So you can scan the QR code in the top right corner of the page. But I would love for you guys to find one person in your life to download Rhythm because Rhythm is such a great tool. But we still need to, get it out there to more people so more people can make smart bets. So what's the go-to then? Divine 99. What's the go-to then? What do you mean by that, my man? Do you mean like the best bet of the night, or I'm not sure. I mean, my top 2 plays are UTEP and Robert Morris, both on the money line. But maybe you like a different bet, which is totally cool. If you want to let me know. You can always shoot me a DM at Josh_insights. And yeah, there we go. Look at Alec, hard at work. Those are the go-tos for me. Both money lines, Robert Morris and UTEP. But good luck, everyone. Have a great Tuesday night. I'll be right back at it next Tuesday. And before you know it, we'll be sweating March Madness, which will be fantastic. So good luck, everybody. Again, download Rhythm. Give it a 5-star review. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on Twitter at Josh_insights. But good luck, and I will see you guys later.